But we are going to begin with that unfolding situation at the Pentagon where multiple floors are on lockdown and staff have been told to shelter in place as officials respond to a potential hazmat incident. MS Now's Priya Sridhar is following this breaking news for us. Also with us is MS Now's David Rode, retired Army Lieutenant General Mark Hertling, the former commanding general of U.S. Army Europe, and an MS Now military analyst, and Tom Manger, former U.S. Capitol Police Chief. Priya, first to you, set the scene for us. What is happening right now?
Yeah, that's right, Antonia. Well, we do know that the Arlington County Fire Department's hazmat team is on the scene at the Pentagon working with emergency responders there to address this hazmat situation. And as you mentioned, several corridors inside of the Pentagon are in a lockdown status right now. Employees have been told to shelter in place. Initially, there wasn't a lot of information from people I spoke to inside of the Pentagon about exactly what was going on. And then about 30 minutes ago, they all received an alert via email that essentially said the Pentagon has a sophisticated system to ensure the safety of the building and its occupants. Those systems have detected an air quality issue, necessitating precautionary measures until we determine its significance. It goes on to say that the Pentagon's Force Protection Agency, which is a civilian law enforcement agency that was made after 9/11 to protect the Pentagon, is following standard protocols, including a shelter-in-place order for the affected area. For your safety, employees between corridors 4 through 7 on floors 2 through 5, A through E rings need to remain in place until we receive results from our tests. Those additional testing could take 1 to 2 hours. Response teams are in place and ready to support building occupants if necessary. You may observe response personnel from multiple agencies and precautionary measures taking place in the center courtyard. Please do not interpret these activities. So as of right now, Antonia, it doesn't appear as though there's any sort of imminent threat to personnel inside of that building. If that were to be the case, we probably would be seeing the building be evacuated right now, but instead employees are being notified to shelter in place. But this is a massive building with about 23,000 both military personnel and civilians in there. And we also know, I should note, that the E ring, they mentioned the A through E rings, that's the ring outside of the Pentagon that has actual windows that face the outside world. And we see some of the most high-ranking military officials, you can see in that graphic right there, sit in those offices. We're talking about the secretaries of the various military branches. And we don't know at this time exactly where Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is on a typical day. Unless he was having any sort of public appearance, he would be inside of that building. We know he was in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba yesterday, but he came back to Washington, D.C. today. So as of right now, folks who are inside of that Pentagon building are awaiting 1 to 2 hours, as they said, from that notification for the additional testing to find out exactly how significant this hazmat situation is, Antonia.
General Hertling, you were actually stationed at the Pentagon for, I believe, 2 years. You were there on 9/11. Have you ever heard of a comparable incident like this one? And what sorts of systems are in place to monitor for air quality issues for a hazmat situation like this? General Hertling, I think you may be on mute.
I'm sorry. Yeah, the Pentagon has its own specialized emergency response capability. They call them the Pentagon Force Protection Agency, PFFPA. And it was created after 9/11 specifically to protect Pentagon personnel, facilities, and infrastructure. You know, they are continuously looking for the detection and identification of hazardous substances. They respond to any suspected chemical, biological, radiological, or explosive threats, even bombs. They immediately go in and protect senior Defense Department leaders, and there's quite a few of them in that 25,000 force that the reporter just talked about. but they also coordinate with the local fire departments. And that's what we're seeing right now. We're hearing things from the Arlington County Fire Department, and they continuously train with them, with their emergency responders, their EMT, their medics, and their ambulance teams. But, the interesting thing that I heard just now in terms of the report, I don't have access, obviously, to the Pentagon alert systems. But when you talk about the A through the E ring, that's everybody on all the different floors. And yes, the E ring does face outward. They're in the far outer ring of the building. And that's where, as was stated, where all the senior leaders are. But the A through the D ring also have senior leaders from all the different forces. We're talking high-ranking officials, both civilian and military. If you're talking about all 5 of the floors in the Pentagon, office space throughout, there's corridors that ramble all through the area. And, one of the first things that any kind of folks from the Pentagon Force Protection Team are going to look for are the potential for terrorist attacks, anthrax specifically, or biological agent releases. When I was there in 2001 through 2003, there were multiple mails that came in, letters that came in with anthrax or threats of anthrax. They're looking for chemical warfare agent exposure, radiological contamination, suspicious packages, a variety of things that they continuously train on. I wouldn't take too much from the fact that they've been asked to shelter in place instead of going outside. There's always the threat assessment of whether you stay in place or leave the building. And if they have intelligence saying that there could be a secondary attack outside the building, that might be part of the rationale for staying inside. So there's a whole lot of things that we don't know, Antonio, right now. But I will tell you that this is a pretty capable force inside the Pentagon. It has to be. The government within that building it's one of the largest buildings in government.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to bring into this conversation former CNN Pentagon correspondent Barbara Starr. She's joining us by phone. Barbara, thank you. It's great to be speaking with you. You have covered the Pentagon, spent an incredible amount of time there. And, I hope you were able to hear General Hertling describing some of his time there between 2001 and 2003. And the kinds of threats, the sort of mail that they were receiving there at the time. What can you tell me about the ways in which protocol shifted after that period?
Well, what I'm so struck by this morning is just that. I was in the building when it was attacked on September 11th, and the Pentagon police force at that time did the very best they could, but they had so little to work with. Basically, we had Pentagon police officers running down hallways, screaming at people at the top of their lungs to get out. That was the emergency protocol. That's what they had to work with. Personnel running to people saying, get out, get out. After 9/11, everything changed. This became, I would say, one of the most secure buildings in the country. Access is strictly controlled. You have to have a pass to get into the building, and you have to be able to swipe in. So it would be difficult for someone to get in. Always the possibility of insider threats, but it would be very difficult for an outside person to get into the Pentagon. They have something now called the Big Voice. This is a microphone system, essentially an audio system that operates throughout the building. And in the event of emergencies, it comes on and someone announces what parts of the building are closed, what are shelter in place, what you're supposed to do based on where you work. They have the email system, so people who work in the building get that instant message on their desktop computers. And they have a great ability to close off parts of the building in the event of some threats, such as like fire. They have heavy screens that automatically deploy and close off parts of the building. So this is very, very different, thankfully, than it was 25 years ago. And I think what's so important is that, yes, they also continue, as they did on the morning of 9/11, to work with state, local, and other federal agencies. The Northern Virginia Fire Department and police departments work constantly with the Pentagon. And one of the reasons is the Pentagon sits right in the middle of one of the busiest commuter hubs in the country. There is a metro subway stop right there. Thousands of people go through there to take the subway downtown and come back to the Northern Virginia in the evenings. There's a bus terminal there. So, thousands of people move through that area every day. And the state and local emergency response teams work with the Pentagon to ensure safety all around. Now, that said, it's going to be very important for them to quickly figure out, or as fast as they can, what, if anything, triggered this air quality issue, and then how they want to best deal with it. And if there is a threat in the air quality, they're going to have to figure out how it got, not only what it is, how it got in there, and how they essentially clean up from whatever it is. Because as you point out, this is a vast area of the building, and there are even, cafeterias and food service stations throughout that area. If there's air quality problems, they're going to have to be cleaned up. So there's a lot to consider here, even if it becomes a shelter-in-place and cleanup issue, and we just don't know yet, of course.
Barbara Starr, thank you as always for your incredible reporting and deep context.